All right, good morning, everybody. My name is Arman Vakili. This is our first official Fixer Fridays episode. We are live on Clubhouse right now. For anybody who's watching this on YouTube or Facebook, we go live Monday through Saturday, every morning on different topics. On Fridays, it's a Fixer Friday, and we'll get into what that means in a minute. But just wanted to let you know that if you are on Clubhouse or if you're not on Clubhouse, if you're an Android user, for example, I think they're just making it available for Clubhouse. So if you are on Clubhouse or if you need to get on Clubhouse, definitely do so. Definitely follow us at officially Arman and make sure that you subscribe to the shows that we launch every morning at 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So without further ado, we're going to get into our topic for today, which is Fixer Fridays. And I'm going to bring my little whiteboard up because I like this thing and it makes me feel like I'm actually like useful somehow. I'm doing something creative. Hey, Narine is here. Thank you so much for joining us. Can I like add you? Invite to speak. If I do that, then you can join me in invite to speak or speak. Hello.
So it turns out you want me to interrupt you after all.
I did not say that at all. That that is not at all what I was implying when I did this. But
I'm kidding. I'll do better today.
will you?
Okay, so here, this is how we can do this. So anytime you're speaking and I have a thought, I'll just unmute myself briefly and then I'll mute myself back up. And then you'll just finish your thought. If you have to finish it in 2 minutes, 3 minutes, whatever, just know that I want to add to it. So that way I'm not interrupting.
Okay, that's cool. I appreciate that. So today's topic is Fixer Fridays. We already got on Zoom. I already told everybody that they should be following us and they should be subscribing to yada yada yada. So Fixer Fridays, intentionally, I wanted it to be around the topic of problem solving, just around the topic of developing logic, learning how to decipher or break situations down. Um, if you don't mind, actually, there is some background noise. Would you be okay with muting yourself? Hey,
Apologies.
no, you're good. Don't worry. Um, I actually don't even know what the mic on the computer picks up, if it even picks up like the little background noises from Clubhouse or not. But so Fixer Fridays was intended to be something around problem solving, teaching people how to logically process issues and really how to break a situation down so that they can figure out what their next steps on a situation should be. And that's the whole idea of Fixer Fridays, so that you can literally just have this process, this logical process to actually break something down. So anytime, or actually let me kind of open it up and ask from my current I don't know if I can call you a co-host, if you get upset if I call you a co-host, but I'm actually curious if you can think of situations, maybe in the last week or not, that you were presented with a situation and you had to, on your toes, you had to think on the spot and try to come up with a solution to the problem. Did something like that happen for you this week? And you know what, Christine, since you're here as well, I would like to hear from you as well if you have a chance. So, specifically, good morning.
Good morning. Do you guys want me to ping a couple of people that may be interested? Are we doing like finance? Yes. Again?
No, so this
Fixer
is
Fridays.
yeah, Fixer Fridays. Today's around problem solving. So you can invite whoever you think might like it or might get benefit from just logic and learning how to
Sure.
break a problem down. Um,
Okay.
for me, I'll just kind of like I'll start it off. For me specifically, I have there's 2 to 3 situations that happen to me on a weekly basis that I have to try to figure out. One of the biggest ones is something around scheduling. So we work with 2 different businesses. We have 2 businesses that we're running, and sometimes the schedules overlap. And we tried a few different uh, times to see if we can break the schedules down, where a certain day is dedicated to a business and another day is dedicated to a business, but it doesn't work that way, and there's always situations that require improvisation, and there's always situations that require you to, be light on your feet and think on your toes kind of situation. So for me, it's always been trying to figure out, number one, when I can meet with a potential client, or if I have to move it, or really like move everything else in the day and then make room for this person, or if it's usually something involved with people. So there's a problem with a person, and I personally don't do well uh, with confrontation. I don't do very well with conflict or uncomfortable conversations. It's something that I have to premeditate in advance what I want to say to this person and what kind of argument that I want to present. Christine, if you don't mind, love, would you please mute your mic? Um, so I have to think in advance. I have to premeditate on what the conversation is going to be and try to present my points to myself and argue with myself and try to bring up whatever potential argument the other person would bring, so that at the very least I could be prepared to go into this conversation. And so the uncomfortable conversations that are required and typically just really rough scheduling, those are things that I constantly have to fix or deal with all the time. And I have, I mean, some processes that I can share with you guys, but I do want to hear from you guys if there's things that happen regularly, if there are situations that come up regularly where you're presented with some kind of a problem or a conflict and you have to fix it. You have to find a solution for it. So I would like to open this up, and if it's okay, I'm also going to invite James. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go with Narina first, then Christine, then James. So Narina, take the lead.
I think you touched on the one problem that I would have with anything at all, because I think everything is fixable. It's so easy. The only problem is the perception of things. Okay. So fighting through people's perception of what you're trying to do so you can get things done is the hardest obstacle for me anyway, because now I have to like enlighten people, educate people, kind of give, or just plow through it. But that becomes an obstacle in and of itself, so figuring out how to like overcome perception, because that can hinder your growth. So relaying yourself accurately, messages accurately, and being precise with your messaging, I feel like that's how I solve my problems. Mm-hmm. And that's how I eliminate any obstacle.
When you say that you have to overcome somebody's perception, is it a perception that they came to the table with, or was it something that you said that they perceived incorrectly that you had to correct? Or
yeah, I mean either or, right? Like it's a perception that does not align with your vision. So if someone's perception doesn't align with your vision, you're going to have a lot of obstacles, or you're going to have growth. So I suppose aligning your perceptions, aligning your visions with one another for growth, and trying to get your kids to sit still when you're trying to do something.
Sure. So what happens in the situation where you try to, hi Zanti, thank you for joining us. What happens in a situation where you have attempted, let's say once or twice, I don't know if this happens frequently or if it's ever happened, but I want to know about a situation that was more difficult than usual, that you tried to speak your mind clearly, but there was still confusion happening on the other side, or you tried to fix a situation where the other person just wasn't willing to be solution oriented. What do you do in those kinds of situations where it's a little bit more stressful than usual?
I have to tell myself that it's important for me to realize why I'm doing what I'm doing, despite others' perception and other obstacles that come about. Like, so I have to define for myself, what goal am I trying to reach? And is this obstacle going to stop me? And if it does stop me, then was that even meant for me? Or, you know what I'm saying? Or should I rework myself so I can attain that goal? So my dad and my brother, for example, people are my problem. My dad and my brother, they have this perception of life that I cannot penetrate for the life of me. And they give me severe imposter syndrome because I am a life coach. I do this for a living. I help people out with their perceptions. And for the life of me, I can't penetrate them because there's a lot of other obstacles that come into play than just their way of thinking, such as like substance abuse, such as cancer, such as physical health. So like there's abandonment, their own traumas. It's very difficult. And on top of that, they're Armenian men. So
yeah.
What do? I do what I have to do at this point. Like I have to start filtering out what it is that they're perceiving and see if it even makes sense to even put any effort into it. So I do what I have to do thereafter. Like if I have to do something for my dad, I'm going to do it despite his perception. If I have to do something for me, I'm going to do it despite the obstacles that come.
No.
A life of ease for both of us, all of us.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, that's a really, really interesting point that you touched on. I guess you can call it parent deaf, or I don't know, family deaf, or whatever it is. But typically, a lot of times when somebody that's close to you, it could be your best friend, it could be your parents, it could be your children, it could be your siblings, but somebody who's close to you that really gets to see on a day-to-day basis what your flaws are, what mistakes you're making. If they bring the solution to you, or if they bring some kind of advice to you, especially in the situation of family scenarios, a lot of times it's unsolicited advice. The other person isn't asking for your advice, but because of the fact that you care so much that you're offering the advice to them and you want them to heal and you want them to get better. So you try in whatever way possible. And I relate to this as well because I dealt with substance abuse in my family as well, and we had to overcome it. And it literally took years. It was years of repetitive affirmations in that person's ear over and over and over again, because addicts, and I don't want to like get too specific into the conversation of addicts and dealing with situations like that, but human beings in general are addicted to whatever their circumstances are anyway. And so if they're not ready, and we spoke about this yesterday on Thoughtful Thursdays, but if they're not ready to receive, if they're not ready to, if they haven't hit rock bottom for themselves in whatever that situation is for them, to actually be receptive to the advice that's coming, more often than not, they're going to reject it or they're going to fight against the advice. It is even stronger when it's your family, because then they really don't have to hold anything back. They don't have to sugarcoat anything, and they come back with some venom and they spit, especially if they've been under the influence of certain things. Then they'll come back and they'll just say some really, really nasty things or just some really hurtful things. And it makes you question whether or not, first off, you should have even had that conversation with this person. But secondly, if any of this is even effective and if any of it is going to work. To address what you just mentioned specifically, obviously, I would say keep hope alive and don't lose hope in any way, because I have seen what it's like when you are repetitive and you are consistently and constantly supportive. I'm not saying don't call them out on their bullshit, but do it with love and support. And eventually it will land, eventually, if they hear it enough, because that inner voice in their head is telling them all of the things that they've done wrong, all of the reasons why they're not worthy of respect or love. And so if somebody comes out and says, you know what, I do love you and I do respect you, and I think no matter what happens, I will always love you and I will always respect you, but what you're doing right now is wrong. What you're doing right now is hurtful to me, it's hurtful to you, it's hurtful to everybody that's in our circles. And if you don't fix this, then the road down the line is going to be catastrophic. Now, I get it. We all die. Maybe you're trying to induce your death, and maybe you're trying to shorten your time on this earth because so far you've had miserable experiences. But that doesn't mean that's the rest of your life. It doesn't mean that the rest of your life is supposed to be like this, because if you choose to fix this, then you will have a better life. It's not a matter of if it'll happen. It actually will happen should you actually address this situation and fix the situation. It is way easier said than done. It's easier for me to say this to you than for you to actually go and carry out the conversation, because it's just really uncomfortable. I completely understand that part. But I do believe that it is possible. I do believe that human beings can be reprogrammed. I do believe that human beings can make drastic changes in their lives, and a lot of times for the better, not just for the worse. So It's my 2 cents on the topic. Go ahead.
Just to cap it off, and we'll go to Christine.
Yeah.
I've realized that despite the fact that I've done that many times, over and over again, had this conversation, you know, the repetition is key, right? Yeah. I decided that the best way to just go about it is to just lead by example, and you know, just be kind, I guess, and just not really feed into their psychosis, and like kind of reel them back into what my reality is.
Sure.
So
lead by example.
Thank you, Arman.
No, of course. I hope there was some kind of value in there, but that's a really great one. You got to lead by example. It doesn't matter who you're trying to influence or what you're trying to influence upon them. If you're not leading by example, the first thing that a person is going to do is call you out on your shit.
Yes.
And say, well, you're not doing it. Why the fuck should I listen to you? So, absolutely. Ms. Christine, share with us. Tell us.
Well, before we got into the substance and drug abuse thing, I was keeping the question in my head. I think what you were asking is like how can I deal with maybe some sort of problem or confrontation that I've had where.
Yeah, what are the common problems or challenges that come up in your life that you see that you have to fix regularly, or you have to address them regularly?
It's not happening regularly, but it is happening sometimes with people I work with, where they promised that they would do something, and then they didn't follow through. But I did everything on my end that we had discussed initially. Like, I'm going to do this, and you're going to do that. Is that cool? And they'll say, yes, of course. You know, reassuring me that they're going to do their end of the bargain or the deal, and then they don't.
Right.
Have to deal with that awkwardness of reminding them, like, hey, remember, like, you told me that you would do this, but you still haven't yet.
Yeah.
Because, you know, if they do what they're supposed to do, it'll really help me, because I did all the work in the beginning, and they had to follow through.
Right. So, and I kind of know a little bit of your background. So I'm just for context, is this on the medical business or is this on the show?
This is on the show. It's on the medical business too, actually. I've been to many, many offices where I've followed up. I've left pamphlets. I've talked to them, left my business card, called them back. Like, they don't do their end. It's always me pushing.
Oh, so I mean, that sounds like it's like you're trying to prospect for clients, right? So that's like a thing where you're trying to get somebody as a client or a business as a client?
Right. But what I'm saying is, both in the medical field and in my show, I have people that don't keep their word, that don't follow through.
Yeah. So
it's that conversation you have to have with them that's really annoying.
Yes, that's true. That's very correct. The reason why I asked if it was specifically geared towards clients is because clients is like the one group of people, unless you've like really established yourself in the industry and they know you and they're very connected to your brand and who you are as a person, it's tough to call a client out on their bullshit or when they're lagging on something without like there's a very fine line of, and I think it's very case by case, because for Narina, if Narina is trying to become my client, because I've known her and because I know how to communicate with her, and I know that she has a great sense of humor and all these things, I feel comfortable with calling her out on some bullshit if she does it. But if somebody I've never met before, if Zanti is becoming my client and I'm having my first couple of meetings with Zanti, I'm literally going to be on my best behavior. I will be challenging her. I'll challenge her belief systems and things like that. But it's going to be very rarely, unless you literally say, hey, can I be upfront with you? Can I be direct with you? Are you okay with me being honest with you right now? And if they say yes, then you can actually say what's actually on your mind. But it's kind of challenging with clients. Now, as far as coworkers are concerned, people that you're actually working and dealing in business with, there's this old saying, which I'm sure you've heard, that says, fool me once, shame on me. Or shame on you, excuse me. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. If you're in a situation where you can't pick and choose So if you're only limited to a certain group of people on the show that you can work with, if you're only limited to a certain group of people that you can work with in the medical business, that means you have to do with what you got to make do. There are ways that in advance you can just be blatantly clear, and this might be a challenge against your personality, where you're just not comfortable with being blatant, maybe, or you're not comfortable with being super direct with somebody, or being perceived as being difficult, or being perceived as being a quote unquote B word or whatever. It's like there are certain things that take place in our mind that immediately we're like, oh, I don't want to be that kind of a person, and I don't want to uh, I don't want to make the situation even worse than what it is, so whatever, so on and so forth. But if you look at, or if you kind of like listen to what you just said at the very beginning, was that if it's happening fairly regularly, and if it's happening with the same group of people, then you have to address it. If you don't address it, it's going to continue to happen, and it's going to become even worse as time progresses. And so it's really up to
Because
you at the
the
end
more
of the
time
day.
goes by, the harder it is to have that conversation with them, because they're like, oh, you're bringing 6 months ago? What the hell?
Dude, 100%. And then you're going to look even crazier, because it's like you're holding on to something that was like 8 months ago, and you're still, you're just mentioning something that happened 8 months ago, but they don't know that for the last 8 months, it's been like eating away at you. So
yes. Christine, we had this conversation at my house. I'm sorry, I had to throw myself in. Remember, we had this conversation at my house. Yes, yes. Literally word for word. Yes, we did. Because this happens on a personal level as well.
Yeah.
And I bring it up with some people, and then I let it go with others, given the circumstances, given who's involved, if it's family, if it's not family, like if it's friends. It's so much easier. In fact, I almost never have this problem with friends, because I'm so transparent with friends. Mm-hmm. And I don't think a friend has ever made me feel that I have to bottle something in for so long and like struggle with it and like toss and turn at night, and how am I going to bring it? Like that never happens with friends. It happens with coworkers or people I work with on the show, or family. And the worst is family, because you're like, oh fuck, like you're at some event and you're like, it's just like hovering.
Yeah.
Like not in it, like we talked about.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We also, Narina and I spoke about this on yesterday's session. You have to train people to treat you the way that you want to be treated. It goes across the board with every single people, or every single person, excuse me, that is in your life. So it could be family, it could be friends, it could be coworkers. You have to train them. It's almost, it's like really out of the realm of reality when you expect somebody to read your mind and know exactly what bothers you, or exactly what's driving you up the wall. And if you're just not willing to communicate that, then it's almost and yes, Zanti raised her hand. So how do I give her, what do I do?
Just accept it. Or invite her to speak. Click on her page, click on her profile, and invite her to speak.
Okay, she became a speaker. So there we go.
Like, hey guys.
Hey, so
Hi,
we'll get you in like a quick second, Zanti.
Some of it though, Arman, it's like, it's really common sense. It should be,
but it's not
like
so common.
Shit.
So common sense is not very common.
Right.
You've heard that as well. These aren't things that you haven't heard before, right? So I'm not bringing anything new to the table for you. I'm just hoping that maybe I can say it in a way that'll somehow click for you. But you really got to understand, like, the next time that somebody at work, or the next time somebody in the family says anything that's even remotely off kilter, that is your shot. That is your moment to step in and just politely and nicely say what's on your mind, so that it doesn't seem like you've been carrying something for God knows how long, or whatever it is. But if you don't do that, this is the thing. It's very binary. If you do it, then there will be some kind of a result that takes place. If you don't do it, then you will get the same result that you've been getting for however long it's been happening. So it's one or the other. It's really one or the other. And you have to really consider for yourself what's comfortable for you and what's uncomfortable for you. And what's more uncomfortable? Is it more uncomfortable to have this conversation, or is it more uncomfortable to just keep going the way that you've been going and grit your teeth every single time something like this happens, and it just let bottle up inside? And then my mom always says stress gives you cancer, right? So it's like, do you want
It
to do that
does.
to yourself?
I attest to that.
Yeah. So do you want to just do that to yourself, or would you rather just have a 5 minute uncomfortable conversation with somebody and just let it all out, leave it all on the table, and then
Yeah.
open up? And you might be pleasantly surprised how receptive some of these people are, and it might really just transform your relationship with them and bring you so much closer than you've ever been before. So
Right.
my 2 cents on it. I think Narnia wanted to speak on this, and I also want to hear from Zanti as well.
Chris, hey, Zanti, so sorry. Chris, just know that, like, whatever you say, it'll make you feel weightless, because there's no longer your responsibility, because you're just reflecting upon this person what they're giving to you. Right. And I call it Steven Seagaling the bitch. So, like, I'm using the force that people throw their way at me. Throw at me. And I just use it in my favor, not against them. I use it in my favor. So when that time comes, Arman is absolutely right. That is the time for you to breathe in and then strike back correctly and effectively, so that way they don't fuck with you anymore like that.
Yeah. Premeditating conversations.
Yes, I just had myself on mute, but I agree with both of you very much. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Premeditating conversations really works for me. Like, I really sit down in advance, like a chess player, and I try to think in advance what their 5 to 10 responses would be to anything that I'm gonna say, and I prepare myself, because if I'm in the situation, if I'm in the moment, usually let emotion overtake me, and if I haven't prepared what I want to say, then I may say things or I may do things that might be counterproductive. So I want to be ready for what I want to say, especially if it's somebody in the family, or especially if it's somebody that I'm going to see all the time. I really want to be careful with the way that I approach this person, because I'm not trying to ruin the relationship. But at the same time, I don't want to be a doormat, and I refuse to let anybody walk over me at all. So
exactly,
you got to figure out what those things are that you got to get off your chest. And then how do you say it in a way that's not going to destroy the other person's ego, but it will even uplift them and make them want to become a better person. Yeah.
Yeah.
Zanti, talk to me.
It's okay to let people know that they're messing up. Sometimes people will accept it and change.
Yeah.
It's a 50-50 chance. Take it and, just do it.
Yeah.
Love you. Go,
Zanti.
Yeah. I find that there's one word that I have been living by in the last year, and it's boundaries. And it's something that our first families, people in their first families do not learn, especially if your parents are of a different origin, ethnicity, and you're immigrants in your country.
Yeah.
Boundaries are so important. And a very important thing is to note is that we cannot make others change. We have to, if we want that change to be made, we have to take the steps on our own behalf, and people eventually understand they cannot cross certain boundaries. And I mean, even for Arman, but mostly for Nara and Christine, there's a book that really, I just love that it helped me so much. It's called The Dance of Anger, and it's written by Harriet Lerner. She's a renowned psychologist. She's absolutely wonderful. She's brilliant. She's written many books, bestsellers.
Who's the author again? Dance of Anger?
Harriet Lerner. If you Google Dance of Anger, you'll see, and she's got a slew of books, and they're fabulous.
Yeah. Okay.
And I recommend them to every single person in my life. Women, but men as well. Men should benefit from them. It's great to get them involved as well. But there's a lot of, in terms of, I mean, I don't know you, Christine, but there's a lot of issues in terms of the business world. A lot of women will say, I feel like I'm not recognized. I feel that I'm not understood. I feel like I'm overseen, I'm overlooked. And these are all very, very, very legitimate problems. Because as women, we are often overlooked. Because as women, there's this ceiling, this invisible ceiling sometimes, and this subtleness of sexism, subtleness of inequity that we face. And we must be awake to them. We must be able to identify it. And we must learn how to respond instead of react to it. That's all. Ironically, almost everyone I work with in the medical field are women. So like it's women completely ignoring other women, and yes, and you know that's a very big making false promises and things like that. Yes, it's a repeat cycle of trauma. Yeah, it is. Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, so here's the first of all, Zanti, thank you so much for that contribution. I wrote it down and I immediately ordered the book.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm kind of obsessed with books, so it also sounds like a really good book. So I'm like, okay, I definitely want to get this.
I hope you like it. I think in your, I mean, I don't know you personally, but from what I've heard, I think you'll enjoy it.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I think I'll enjoy it too. I'll definitely let you know the next time that we have a conversation what I thought of it. I love books in general. So anybody that will recommend any kind of book to me, I will take that advice to heart and I will order it. And at the very least, I will read it, even if I don't agree with the person or if I don't agree with the author. But what you just said right now and what Christina and Narnia also just contributed to as well, I've heard this a lot, this concept of women being, I don't know, catty with other women or women not being exactly the most supportive that they can be with other women. And I want to say that it's something that is more of and I can't speak on it personally because I'm not a woman, but I feel like human beings are in general are like this. The idea of everybody being out for themselves, and every man for themselves or every woman for themselves, and you got to take care of number one, and they can, I don't know, whatever the sayings are that will come up, but there's this idea, this philosophy that people have been so independent for such a long time that they've just made peace with it and everybody's cool with it, and independence has been mistaken or it's been transformed into being a bitch or a douche. And so long as you're taking care of it, nothing's damaging your house, that means that everything's all good and you can be whatever kind of person that you want to be. And I don't agree with this. I think interdependence is the ultimate level of sophistication, and the ultimate level of civilized society is when if I can watch Zanti's back and Zanti watches my back, then we're both taken care of. And it's probably even more effective for me to keep everything in my front view, because I can see way more in my front view than trying to look over my shoulder every 10 seconds. And the same thing for Zanti. Zanti could see everything in her front view, but if I'm watching her back and she's watching my back, we're good. And this is the thing that I feel like people just aren't getting. And then when you try to explain it to them, they're like, okay, well, you first. Why don't you do it first and show me that I can trust you? It's like, okay, well, with all due respect, who the fuck do you think you are for me to just drop everything if you're not even willing to at least tell me, at least lie to my face and tell me, all right, I'll have you back if you have my back. But if you come to me and you give me some kind of an ultimatum or say, well, I want to see what you're going to do first, dude, I'm done with you already. I don't even want you in my life anymore if that's the kind of person that you want to be. This may sound contradicting to what I just tried to deliver as a point, but it ends up being the fact that what's the word? I just literally I had a brain fart so bad. We need to have a consciousness change as a species. And we need to have a development and growth graduation of consciousness as a species.
That's the thing. There's people that are just toxic, and we just have to know when someone's being toxic and just remove ourselves from that situation.
100%.
We just have to set that boundary, and we don't have to eat up if they're dumping shit on us, we could just walk away. We don't have to put up with them. And I know in the workplace it could be difficult, but if you set your boundaries, you're not accountable for other people's actions. You're only accountable for yourself.
So talk to us about family. Talk to us about family. How would you apply this to family? Because you can't escape family.
You set your boundaries. I mean, I did. Nara was talking and then I had to jump on a call. So I missed her story, but I got part of it. And she said something about her brother, I think, and father, and how she has to deal with imposter syndrome. I didn't catch the rest of that story, Nara. So
how do you enforce boundaries with family?
You just do. You just do. You say, I don't know what your boundaries are. I don't know for what it will pertain. But let's say your father's an alcoholic, and every time he drinks, he calls you up and he just spews shit at you. You don't have to answer the call. That's a boundary.
You're absolutely right, Zanti, and I resonate with what you're saying, like, deeply, because I just recently figured out what a boundary with family members are.
Right.
You know, because you feel kind of bound to them.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's hard to like create boundaries. Hi, babe. But thank you for that. I agree with you.
Yeah. I really like practical examples. So this idea of just not answering the phone. So I shared this story with Chris the other night. I used to be a pre-med student, and the day that I told my mom that I wanted to drop out of med school was literally the day that she just decided not to speak to me for the next 2 years. Like, so we didn't speak to each other for 2 years. When I say we didn't speak to each other, there was a text that happened. I never saw her at a place anywhere. We never called each other. For 2 years, we didn't speak to each other. Now I take responsibility on that, because as the child and as the person that's been a little bit more connected to the evolution of human psychology, my mom is super, super old school, very traditional. She's not going to be the one that's going to admit that she made the mistake. I just know that.
Totally.
And so when I get to that kind of a environment around her now, I get it. I smile, I nod my head. I'm like, Mom, you're right. Because I don't want to get into that argument with her. And I don't want to put a wedge even further between us, because we were just finally getting back to a healthy place in our relationship. But there really was a time where, like, I wouldn't answer the calls. She wouldn't answer the calls. That boundary was so set.
You know, there's it evolves, and anger. There's anger there between the both of you, and both of you have legitimate reasons. The thing is that at some point, you just said it, you know, you don't expect her to take that first step because she can't grasp what she's doing, but you do. You have a higher understanding of things. So you took that step. And the thing is that she is your mother, and you do love her, and she loves you. So it's a healthy relationship. You just had a bump. And it's a big one. So it's important you keep contact, and you give the person space to come back to you. But they have to know. They have to know if they mean anything to you. They have to know your door is open, that it's not shut. They may choose to shut their door, but you make it known to them. I'm here. My door is open. Whenever you're ready to talk, walk in.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And can I just add one thing? I completely agree with both of you, and I have experienced this in my life, either with someone who is my age, who's a family member, or older. And it's always like, in our culture, you know, if someone who is extremely stubborn and doesn't want to admit that they're wrong and almost never apologizes, which are my parents, and most of the time anyone in that age group, and they'll say, oh, well, you know, my mother, like, for example, she'll say, Christine, he's older, you're younger, make the step to smooth things over, make the step to say something or call or come over or whatever. Like, I'm not oh, well, he didn't do this for me, so I'm not going to do that for him kind of thing. But it's like, if you're not acknowledging me once, twice, 3 times, I'm going to pull back.
Absolutely.
But then, you know, in our culture, they'll say, if you are younger, if you are the daughter or the son or the nephew or whatever it is,
exactly,
you have to make that move to.
But it's wrong.
But it's wrong, because I'm a human too. I'm an adult too.
Yes.
You know, and even if I was a child, like, you gotta, you know, it's so one way.
In those books that I had mentioned, in terms of what Harriet Lerner, the psychologist, has written, a parent being able to say, I'm sorry, to her child, to his child, is so fundamental.
Yeah.
Because that's where we learn, because as children, we know what's right and what's wrong, and we feel it. So when we've been wronged by a parent, we know it. And when that parent doesn't take accountability to say, I'm sorry, it fucks us up.
Yeah. 100%.
Absolutely. And I have 2 kids. And I say sorry to them any time that I need to say sorry to them, without any ego, without anything. And I even explain myself why I behaved the way I did. I say, I have some trauma that I don't know how to figure out yet, but I'm working on it. And if you can help me, I'm not trying to put the responsibility on my kids, but I want them to be very aware of what trauma looks like in every stage.
Beautiful.
Yeah. It's there was a day, I remember there was a time where it was still around the time that, like, it was towards the end of it, which I think what caused the change to take place. But when I chose to leave med school and I went into finance, I learned obviously that my mom just wanted me to be secure. She wanted me to have success in my future. To her, it was just about what she knew worked, right? She knew that if you went to school and if you got a medical degree and you became a doctor, there is probably going to be demand for you in the marketplace, and you're probably not going to, struggle. And so it was her solution to the problem of income and money.
Absolutely, yes. And it's what Nar said. It's about, we inherit our parents and grandparents and great grandparents' trauma. Mm-hmm. So if you look down the line and you ask your mom, "Hey, mom, what about this is making you so nervous?" Mm-hmm. And she says, "Well, once I had a brother, or once I had an uncle, and I saw him do this, and he failed." Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, so you're carrying that trauma on, mm-hmm. and you're imposing it on your kids, and you do it unconsciously. Mm-hmm. The minute you become conscious, yes, you resolve it.
Yeah. And it's what happened once I've learned that part of it. I went to her and I said, "Look, I get that you want me to be successful, and believe it or not, I want to be successful too. It's not that I'm trying to like go down to this dead end kind of a path. I want to actually be successful because I want to do this for you. I want you to be comfortable. I want my lifestyle to be enjoyable. I don't want to be inside a hospital for 80 hours a week." Like, I was explaining my entire situation to them. And basically it came down to, if I accomplish, so if you tell me that I have a year to do something, and if I go and within that year hit the milestone that you think is a good enough milestone, will you let this go? Will you support me? Because I'm not going back to med school. And this was a conversation that I had with her. And I just said it very bluntly, very upfront. I was like, "Look, we could either just not talk to each other and that'll be the rest of our relationship, or you can admit that I kind of know what I'm doing because I'm no longer a teenager. I'm no longer some infant or some toddler or whatever. I've been through life. I've experienced life. I've been screwed over. I've made money. I've lost money. I get that part. But if I tell you that I'm not going back to med school, is that going to change what is happening here? Because or is it just gonna like stay the same? You know what I mean? Is our relationship completely screwed because of this decision, or do you just want me to be successful? Because if that's the variable, if that's the goal that we're trying to accomplish here, then I promise you I will be successful, and you never have to worry about it again. And I'll send you money every month, and like, you'll really be chill. You won't have to worry about this ever again. When I said this, she paused. She sat there and like thought about it a little bit, and then she was like, "Okay, right." Did the same thing with my sibling. My sister was battling with substance abuse for a good portion of her life. It wasn't a similar conversation that I had with my mom, but it to the point of open communication, to the point of boundaries, to the point of just speaking up. Um, there was a time that I was like, "Okay, you know what? No matter what she does, anytime that I see her under the influence of this thing, I'm just going to go to her and I'm going to tell her that I know. So don't lie to me." Because I used to ask her, I'd be like, "Are you high?" She'd be like, "No, of course I'm not high." And then I'm like, "Okay, well, you're lying to me to my face." So I changed the approach and I was like, "Okay, I'm going to go to her and I'm going to say, look, I know you are. And I get that you thought that this was the best choice that you could make. I don't approve of this choice, but I do know that you can come out of this. I'm here for you if you want to come out of this. And I will do whatever I possibly can to make sure that you have all the support that you need." "I'm not high. What are you talking about? I don't. Da, 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 da." "Okay, yeah, sure, no problem. You can say whatever you want to say. I know that you are. You can say whatever you want to say. I know. And because I know, I'm telling you, I don't think this is okay. And I want it to change. I think you can change. If you want me to help you, I'll help you." And this became a conversation every single time that I saw her, that I knew that she was under the influence. And eventually it worked. Now, here's the, this is like, You got to understand this, what we were dealing with what my sister was going through. I saw a therapist, I saw doctors, I saw people that were in a bunch of different rehabs. Every single person told me to turn my back on this girl. They said that she was far beyond repair. There wasn't anything that I could do. Just let it go, save yourself the heartache, kick her out of the house, all of these things. And there was just this voice in my gut or whatever that was like, that's not how this is going to work. We're not this some westernized American family that we just turn our back on our family. That's not how I operate. So if it kills me, then it kills me, but I'm not letting this girl go. I'm not turning my back on her. And that was probably one of the biggest decisions that I made in my life that ended up being a catalyst for that entire situation changing. Because if you're 1 foot in, 1 foot out, and this could be with any kind of transformation in any relationship that you want to make, and girls tell guys this all the time. It's like, I want you to show me that you actually want to commit to me. I want you to show me that you're actually interested. Don't tell me you're interested. Show me you're interested. Show me that you want this to work. And when you say, all right, I'm in it, I'm 100% in it, I'm committed, you do things and you say things that you normally wouldn't do when you're hedging against yourself or when you're hedging for yourself and you don't want to give yourself any kind of a heartache. So these boundaries that Zanti mentioned are so, so important, but it's also the communication of the boundary. If the other person doesn't know that there's a boundary set in place and they don't know why there's a boundary that's been set in place,
absolutely.
they're not going to do anything.
It's hand in hand. I mean, you can't set a boundary without the other person knowing it. That's the whole point of the boundary.
Yeah. So yeah, I believe in human beings' ability to change. I think everybody can change. It's one of the reasons why I decided to even do these morning shows and these episodes, because I want to provide testimony, provide equipment or knowledge, but I also want to hear other people's testimonies and the things that you guys shared today. Thankfully, we're recording it and it's going to end up on YouTube and Facebook. But these things are transformative. These stories are helpful. They're useful. People can actually take them and hopefully apply them. And whoever you are watching this, watching the recording of this or listening to this, please actually act on this information, because go read The Dance of Anger. Go speak with your family if you need to. Go speak with your coworkers if you need to. You have to do these things. You can't put your head in the sand and just run away. Life will zoom by you, and then you'll literally lay on your deathbed wishing that you would have done something to actually change it instead of just running away in cowardice. Please go ahead, whoever unmuted themselves. I know you want to say something.
Just wanted to say that I also ordered Harriet Lerner's book, and I'm also going to do a shameless plug because I wrote a book too called The Boss of Me. And it accounts of my life and my self-realizations and how I perceive things and my accountability and my advice on, how I took it. So definitely, if you want another perception on things, I urge you to try my book out. It's called The Boss of Me by nahesh.
Okay, so we're gonna drop that down on our little board right here so that we can also write this out. And so, since we're doing plugs, I also wrote a book called Swimming with Sharks, and it's more so catered to the world of business and finance, but it's around this idea of you're dealing with people who are out to get you, and you got to be prepared. And if you're not prepared, you're going to be screwed. So it's swimming with sharks. So I'm going to put The Life of Me.
The Boss of Me, bro.
Oh, sorry. The Boss of Me. Boss. Excuse me. See, I made the change right away.
My kind of kid.
The Boss of Me by Narine Tadevosian. And then we have Swimming with Sharks. That's so funny.
I like that. They go hand in hand.
That's so good, though. That's great. Okay, so we have our show notes here, guys. It's going to end up on the video. I haven't uploaded the one from Thoughtful Thursday, which was yesterday. So I'm going to upload that today, and it's all going to be scheduled to come out on the proper day next week. So all the recordings are just a week lag. So the Monday stuff is coming next Monday, the Tuesday stuff is next Tuesday, etc. And if you have any questions that you guys want addressed for any of these show topics, if you have stories that you want to share, if you want to join as a moderator and take lead on some of these conversations, let me know. I really would love to have anybody who wants to join us. And this also counts for the people who are watching this as a replay on YouTube or Facebook or whatever. If you are an Android user, you're kind of shit out of luck right now because I don't think Clubhouse is on Android yet. But whenever it does come out on Android, download Clubhouse. For anybody who has iOS and who has an iPhone, download Clubhouse and join us in these conversations, because we obviously want to speak with you live and actually have you attend and contribute to the conversation. But if you can't, then you can also just leave your comments, or excuse me, leave your questions in the comment sections of these videos, and then we'll address them in our future episodes. So we are nearing the end of our time. I want to first and foremost thank you guys for joining me and actually contributing. I think it was amazing. I'm very, very grateful that you guys were willing to be transparent and actually share your wisdom with us. Do you guys have any closing messages that you want to leave our listeners with?
I'd really like, I'm a huge advocate for leading with empathy, and I think this world is lacking a lot of empathy at the moment, and it always has, and I'd like to see more of it. And just everyone needs to know that everyone's kind of scared to make those first moves and to be vulnerable in front of others. But we just have to, I think Nara mentioned shame. We got to get rid of it. We got to just start tackling that and just face those demons and get into the ring and really look at our other person and see that we're kind of the same. We have the same fears, the same challenges, and just be empathetic to one another.
Yeah, amen.
That's right. Zanti and I were on a group or a room for accountability, which I was thinking about doing that tomorrow morning or something, which is my most favorite topic on the planet, accountability. 1 second, boob. Let me be accountable and finish. So what I'm trying to say is accountability heals everything. Everything.
Yeah.
Everything. That's all I have to say.
Amen. We lost Chris, so I think this is going to be the close of the show. So thank you guys again for being with us. Narina, thank you. Zanti, thank you. I really appreciate it. It was a pleasure, a privilege, and an honor. And we will see you guys tomorrow. We have sales and ads Saturdays, and then Sunday we're off, and Monday is going to be Management Monday. So thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. Love to see you again soon. You have a beautiful rest of your day. Oh, Chris is back.
Hi, I'm so sorry I lost connection, but I just wanted to say thank you. I have to head to work. I appreciate your time, and hopefully we'll do this again. I think there's a Wednesday, there's a Friday, there's a Tuesday, there's one every day.
Yeah, so Monday through Saturday. Yeah, sounds good. Thank you so much for being here. It was awesome having you. You have a beautiful rest of the day at work, and everybody else have a great rest of the day as well. Talk to you guys soon.
Bye. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
And for those people who are watching the recording, we're going to end the recording now. These are the notes for the conversation today. Hopefully you can read them, and hopefully they're like legible. I don't know how to increase the size of the font inside Zoom's whiteboard recorder thing, so I'm going to try to figure that out between now and the next recording. But you could do this little thing where you could like zoom in on the screen or some shit. I don't know. But hopefully you found it useful. Hopefully you actually found it informative, and maybe it actually gave you some ideas on how you can handle challenges and issues in your life. My name is Arman Vakili. This was Fixer Fridays, and we are going to see you in the next episode. All right. So I'm going to stop the share. Boom. And I'm going to end the recording.